Elevation Nation. Listen, Parker and I are Terps at heart. So when we get the opportunity to have another Terp on Elevation Nation to welcome them to our community, we jump at that idea, especially when the connection between ourselves and this guest is a former professor of mine, a professor that has told me to go and chase after my entrepreneurial dream, someone I admire and respect. Professor Umberto connected us with this gentleman and his partner who's really revolutionizing entrepreneurship. They have a killer idea that they're going to talk about in a minute, but more importantly, understand the struggles that Parker and I go through of having a full-time job, having a passion project or company or side hustle that you care so deeply about, and founding a company with a friend, someone you care about, someone who you deeply respect and admire. So we have a lot to talk about today, but my fellow Terp, my brother, David Greenfield, welcome to Elevation Nation, man. I am so excited to have you on the pod.
Hey, happy to be here. Thanks, guys.
I'm very happy to be here. It's not often that we get the pleasure of speaking with a Terp. You know, I get the pleasure of speaking with a Terp every time we do a podcast, and that's because Sam and I are both Terps. But David, obviously, this is like an extra plus because, you know, Sam knows really well. Like, my family, me, like, we love Terps. We're big Terps fans. And when you look at Terps doing awesome things, it's like, damn, okay, University of Maryland, let's go. Let's hype this thing up. But David, everyone's like, why is he hyping up? Elevation Nation's probably sitting there like, why are you hyping David up so much? Like, they don't even know who you are, or maybe they do. So, David, we like to start every episode with an elevator pitch. We got to learn a little bit more about who you are.
Absolutely. Yeah, Terp through and through. I started off just loving tech just ever since I can remember. And, I ended up, going to University of Maryland to study business. But I was always like thinking about what can you do to create a better future, right? And so that took me to all kinds of cool classes, but more importantly, took me to internships at Tesla, BMW, brought me to IBM. And then, in a very clear scenario, we were on the streets of New York City, me and my co-founder Puya, and we had to walk home an hour to our now CFO's apartment because our phones were dead and we couldn't Uber. It was December. It was like 14 degrees outside. And we were like, this is the most ridiculous thing ever. How is it possible we don't have access to a charger? And it's 2021, I guess, at the time, going on 2022. We were like, it's unheard of. So we were like, we're going to do something about it. And that took us into building JUUCE. JUUCE is a company where we install portable charging kiosks where users can rent a portable charger on the go. All of our portable chargers have a micro USB, USB-C, and iOS cable built in. And it's been awesome. We're seeing so many people, not only love the product and love what we're building, but actually having an insane use cases like ourselves when we built it, saying, you saved the day, it just made my day. I would have been in trouble if we didn't have this company in some of these locations that we're located. And it's been really exciting, especially from a partnership standpoint of who we're building with, what we're building, and this network we're creating across the country.
I love the way you put it there. It was like you're juiced up when people hit you up and they're like, yeah, you saved the day, because without you, I mean, we rely on our phones so much, almost to the point where like it's an extension of our body. I mean, it basically
100%.
is. Imagine a life where we didn't have them. And for you, I feel like you're trying to solve that. There is no life without a phone. You have to have your phone. So JUUCE is that thing to help you get back, with your phone and all that. I love it. It's amazing.
Well, we say all the time, dude, it's 2023. Can your phone not be charged, right? So this is the solution for that. And more so, it is a brand that we're building around the space where you would find a lot of these users, like the collegiate, pro sports, and nightlife venue spaces. So it's really fun when we partner with these locations. We get to go to them and, set things up, but also more so, interact with the people that run these businesses at a high level, executive to owner level. And it's really amazing to actually get a look into that space of the business world. And the amount we're learning from that is insane. And it's being implemented into everything we do, working with executives on a regular basis to, do technology implementations that are hardware and software based.
I want to ask you, David. So obviously, you and Puya got this idea walking around in the streets of New York. So Parker and I, we've always had an obsession with entrepreneurship. In fact, we were grasping at straws trying to come up with companies and ideas and concepts since junior, maybe senior year of college. Were you or Puya interested in entrepreneurship, or was this truly a light bulb moment where just an idea came to you, you had business background and tech interest, and you decided to run with it?
Yeah, so for me, this is my first venture. And for Puya, this is his third company. So, this combo is, we're a great partnership. We constantly on the phone building and building and building. But this was truly a smacked us right in the face kind of moment. When we had this realization, we were like, what is this? How is this a problem that's not fixed, like properly fixed? And that's what inspired us right off the bat. And in addition to that, seeing the need in our own lives is what really drove it. We were like, not only do I want to build this for other people, I need this. I'm the one with the dead phone in New York City or in many other occasions. And so that's really what brought it all about. Yeah.
Did you always think that you were going to start a company? Like, you go to the University of Maryland, you're in Robert H. School of Business, you're sitting around, you're looking at all these other students, some are going to go the finance route, some are going to go the accounting route. Were you always in the back of your mind, you're like, yeah, like, it's just a matter of time? That's what I'm trying to get at.
That's a good question, because I found myself in a lot of positions where I was accelerating in different business aspects of, going to like Tesla and BMW and working with these in these insane situations where it's like you're going to help roll out the Model 3 back in, I guess, 2019 or something like that. And you're going to come to BMW, the largest BMW manufacturing plant in the world, and start identifying ways to implement like AI and different technologies for ergonomics into the production line. I'm like thrown right head on in, and I've always felt like I can handle those situations very well. And then only in the last couple of years, where they're like, I gotta take this to the building level, because not that it was inevitable, but that it's something you can do.
It sounds like, whether you knew it or not, entrepreneurship or facing challenges that maybe were different or outside the box is always something you were going to do. And I think that's what unites a lot of elevators in Elevation Nation is we get excited by seeing that next level, that next floor, and knowing that, hey, I'm an elevator at my core. I have the right mindset. I'm excited to go get to that next level. And again, Parker and I like to say this a lot on Elevation Nation. Not everyone is an elevator, and that's okay. Some people are cool. Like, I'm comfortable. I'm in my zone. This is my niche. I'm good cruising. But for some folks that are elevators, we want to challenge ourselves to get to new levels. And so my question for you, David, with that in mind, has it been as rewarding as you thought it would be starting your own venture? Or are you like, damn, this is way more stressful than I thought. I thought it was going to be smooth sailing.
Wow. Yeah. Coming from a job where you can just sit there and go through the day to day, compared to what it's like to, from zero, take yourself to pro sport level partnerships and build, all these things. This is not for, just this is not just for like a standard person, in the sense that, oh my God, you like have no idea what's coming when you say, I want to start a business. And then you realize what you have to do. And then you have a choice. You can either do it or you can stop doing it. And there were so many points in our journey where it's like, okay, time to reflect. Do we want to continue doing this? Because the barrier right now is very high. And are we willing to scale it to overcome it? And we had like maybe 3 or 4 times where like, we have a choice right now. We can either quit or keep going. And the number one entrepreneur trait that you have to have is when you get knocked down, it's about getting back up and keep going. And if you're capable of doing that, no matter what the issue is, then you're going to be successful. And I'll tell you one thing about, Hui and I is like, we feel like we can't be stopped. And that feeling is what gets us up every day to work. I don't know, we're doing 20-hour days sometimes, it feels like. And that's what it's required. That's what's required, to run a business like this one.
You know what we call that trait, David?
What's that?
It's something that Sam and I love to talk about, and we talk about on every episode. We call that trait mental fortitude, the idea of someone who embodies mental fortitude, the ability to overcome in the face of adversity.
Absolutely.
And, we'll get a little bit into mental fortitude, but I want to take a step back a little bit to what you were just saying, like about how it's not for everyone starting a company. Let's be real. People have thought of your idea before. Let's be like, that is 100% a thing. Like, oh, okay, chargers that go in places where I can plug my phone in, supercharge my phone, and get going. Like, people have thought of that idea, but most people think of an idea and have all these amazing ideas, and they don't know how to execute it, think about how to put it into practice. And what's really crazy about what you guys are doing is you're taking something that probably a lot of people have tried to do, and you're running with it, and you're using that mental fortitude to get over the hump, to continue to get over the hump, and the next hump, and the next hump, to get you to where you are now, which is still grinding and still trying to make something happen. And that is so amazing when we talk to all these people we call elevators, because they see the bigger purpose. They might not see the mountaintop that they're trying to elevate to, but they know it's there. And they know that if they keep pushing with mental fortitude, the elevation will continue to come.
100%. You have to be so mentally strong. You have to have the mental fortitude to not stop what you're doing, because you can't fail. I mean, you can't lose if you don't stop trying. And that's what we say all the time. So as long as you keep going, you can't lose. And so, or I guess the joke we say is you can't go out of business until you stop. So, we bring like,
I love that mentality, by the way. I love that.
Yeah, if you don't stop, it's never over. So that's how we go about it. And it's funny because like it's funny, we have such high valleys and peaks. Like some days are so, you're getting rejections, things are not working, you're having like, you're rethinking and like re-strategizing, and then days you're getting like deals coming in and you're like, oh wow, like what we're doing is right. Like, let's apply what we learned again and again over. And the biggest thing we do, and the biggest thing you have to do with a startup, is you got to pivot. You got to pivot into what's working. You got to pivot into bigger ideas. And then you have to see where the opportunities are going to come and take advantage of them. I'm a huge opportunist, and I think another trait that's really important, you can't be afraid. You have to be fearless. You have to email the CEO of a company, and maybe they will respond. Sometimes they do, and maybe they're executive partners and stuff like that. But if you don't try, it's not going to happen. And so that's why you can't be scared to really take on any challenge.
So I have a question with that. And this is going to be Sam Panitch, the person talking to you, because I admire that trait that you have of being fearless. When you are so passionate and put your soul into JUUCE, and I know it's like who you are at this point, when you reach out to someone and they don't respond is I think easy because you don't have to face rejection. But when they're like, this shit is stupid, like, what are you talking about? you're a kid, we don't want to work with you. What do you like? This is not going to happen. How do you either shrug that off, prove them wrong, or not take it personally and kind of light that fire in you to keep going? Because this is why I can't do sales. Like, I'm too sensitive. Like, I want everyone to like me. I want everyone to think I'm good and smart and intelligent, and that Elevation Nation is the coolest thing since sliced bread. So when someone says it's not, I take that not as like Elevation Nation isn't for them, but I take it as like Sam Panitch as a human being is not for them. And that's really hard for me. So how do you manage that?
I'm in charge of all our business development at JUUCE, and the joke I make to everyone, like, when I'm sharing like the results of the day, who responded, who's interested, who rejected, who didn't respond, sort of those kinds of things. I always like send a picture or something of a rejection and say I feel nothing, because because I've basically stopped. I don't care if they reject it, because I am not going to stop reaching out to potentially other people at that company that might be the right fit to talk to. It's never really a rejection until you get a no, please never speak to me ever again. And that's my joke all the time. I'm like, I'm not going to stop, trying to make this work with whatever company or with whatever venue until I'm told to basically fuck off. And so that's the best way to do it. And I genuinely feel nothing. Like I see it as like, okay, I just got to figure something else out now.
I feel like at one point you were probably like, you had to have taken it personally at some point, and you probably have done it so many times. You've got the reps in that it's like,
fair.
All right, I miss, great, next thing up. Like I saw some video, or my fiance sent me a TikTok, like, or it was my mom actually. It was like about Michael Jordan. How many shots did Michael Jordan miss? And he just kept taking them and taking them, and he's one of the greatest athletes, if not the greatest athlete of all time. Look, 6 championships doesn't come without missing, without failing, without trying and trying and trying. And what, I think is, to your point also, David, is like, it kind of is a win-win when you reach out to someone, because if they do reject you, that's just more information. That's just more information that you can take about this type of person doesn't want it, or do they want it? This industry doesn't want it, do they want it? And if you get that rejection, it's just more information that you guys can take. If you can take your ego out of it, which is the hardest part, because we all have feelings and emotions, and it's hard to separate the ego from, the day-to-day. But, Sam and I are not there yet, I will say. We're working on it. We're trying to exercise mental fortitude in other ways, and that is a hard thing, is rejection, no doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can't deny that I definitely am an emotional person, and I can take it out on people in my life in one way or another, which is challenging, because when you're sitting here and you're working day in and day out, things are going well, things aren't going well, you don't really have a release, right? And then sometimes you might release it in certain ways that impact others. And, it's something I'm working on, because maybe I say I feel nothing, but I can get upset, when, things aren't coming along the way we want, and that builds, you know what I mean? And so that's something like, as a company, we're all working on is, some of this stuff takes time. Partnership relationships are not an overnight thing. They're a multi-month year activity to cultivate, a partnership that's going to be long lasting, and, that can be frustrating 100%. So maybe that's a better way to put it, that it can be frustrating, but the learning that you're getting out of each rejection is super worth it, because then you're just going to apply. The amount of times we've revised our business model to match rejection after rejection, or after a time that someone actually accepted, we're like, oh, that worked, or that's not working, it hasn't been working, let's change this, or let's update it, or and as we're growing this team, we're bringing on, you can't just run, start, and build a company all on your own. And that's why I'm really into building this team right now. And we've brought on some amazing people who are, pretty niche with certain areas that we're trying to get better at for marketing, for example. How do you get more people to know about your business, right? And bringing on people that excel in that area. Whereas, my accelerate spot might be, I don't care if I'm on a call and someone says, please don't call me again, but also at the same time, like, being client to client facing and, having to troubleshoot an issue or, trying to raise your first funding round and no one's interested, stuff like that. There's so many categories in which, you're like, man, we gotta figure this out. What do we change? What do we up? How do we pivot? So but I love it. Like I eat, I'm like, it's like my sustenance. Like I love it. It keeps me going. Every day I look forward to waking up. I'm like, all right, I'm about to get after it.
Well, you wouldn't be sitting here with a full-time job building JUUCE on the side if you didn't have that. Let's be real. If you didn't love what you're doing, if you didn't love everything that you're putting into and, all this conversation. I mean, you said 20 hours a day?
Yeah,
sometimes
it's crazy sometimes.
I hope that's on the weekend,
note,
maybe, like so you can get some sleep the following day.
Well, not a big sleeper, but
okay.
But I forget what I want to say. But basically,
So I got something
Yeah.
for you, David, that I wanted to ask. It's fairly rare that you find someone who's a founder as passionate as you are about something that they created, that is so quick and young and willing to say, I need to outsource ideas, marketing, PR,
I'm a big
whatever it
believer
may
in
be.
outsourcing.
And so, okay, so I want to talk about that for a second. This is another area that Parker and I have slowly gotten better at, but it's taken a little while because you think when you start something that you know best because you know the ins and outs of everything. It would take so long to get someone up to speed on the entire story of JUUCE and the pivots we had to make and the lessons learned. And so how could someone market this thing better than me? But yet, I think very strategic business owners realize that you can't do this without a team of either just hands helping you out or experts in certain fields that maybe you don't want to learn or know so that you can grow. So was that always something like, were you in group projects and fully trusting people? Because I was the kid, man, in the Smith school that was like, I don't trust you guys to do this. Like, my grades on the line, I'm just going to do everything. Were you always so trusting of other people to get shit done?
Yeah, so wait, literally three things. I remember what I want to say. First of all, I don't see JUUCE as work. I love it. Second thing is, our team now has 4 UMD alumni on it. And we are also the 4 core co-founders as well. So
Hell
it's
yeah.
awesome. It
Let's
is
go.
awesome not only working with people that I went to business school with and that are some of my like really, really good friends from all 4 years of college. It's so rewarding to like, we have fun when we're working. And, sometimes it's really hard and like we have to, argue and figure stuff out, but like it's part of it. It's making our relationship as friends like way stronger, which is cool. And then the third thing, you want to know the type of kid I was in college? I couldn't even stay awake for one class. I feel bad. I'm sitting in Humberto's class, like nodding off. This guy's amazing. He has the best energy ever. But I'm an ADHD type. I can't sit in a classroom. I can't listen to someone lecturing. And so I was always doing my own research on the side. And that's where I learned everything. I would take the classes. I did okay in school. And I always did enjoy group projects to the point that I wasn't maybe participating even as much because I'm like literally working on something else on the side. You know what I mean? At least in retrospect, that's what it feels like it was. And then it turned into not going to class because I was doing other stuff as well.
This is so interesting you bring this up. I had this conversation with a family member the other week. It was like, you go to college, and our idea of college is that you get an education through your schoolwork. But we all know that it's more than that. You go to college so that you're in this environment where you can become and learn more about who you are as a person, what you want, and what inspires you. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with you dazing off in class and focusing your energy in other ways. If you're failing the class and you're paying for the class to get the credits and all that, like, yeah, it's a problem. But it didn't sound like that. It sounds more like, okay, you weren't interested, but you were able to meet people and find common interests in a place where you could let the ideas flow. And now look at you, right? Sam and I, same way, right? Was I the best at school? I mean, I did decent. Sam worked his ass off in school. He did okay. He did pretty good. But from there, I think all of us, I want to speak for all of us, the biggest growth was outside the classroom and how we explored our different interests. And, Sam and I would go to the freaking, the stamp union, Sam? What was that place called? And mark up a big-ass whiteboard for hours and hours and then just learn on our own. That's the best type of learning.
I mean, this brings up a debate that we certainly don't have to get into, but I want to. So, I mean, I learned a lot at Maryland for sure. I would say I learned the most from being a tour guide. I learned so much from being a tour guide. You have parents ask some crazy shit on tours, and there's no one else around you. There's no one from admissions. There's like no adult you can turn to. You have to articulate this question, sometimes sidestep really questionable and uncomfortable comments, and still make the University of Maryland look good. And I don't know, maybe like that skill is called like bullshitting or critical thinking. I don't know. But that's where I learned many of my people skills and how to adapt on the fly, how to be, to your point, David, you love being client facing, like how to talk to people and be in the moment. Because you can't like hide behind a computer and Google stuff when you're on a tour of how to answer a question. Like, you got to think of it, and they're all staring at you. And so I think it's very cool, all of us going to Maryland. I'm very grateful for the education that I got and the degree that we got, but I'm more grateful for the opportunities that I took outside of the classroom to grow myself as an individual and a human being and as a young man.
100%. And something I do believe is through college, through different jobs that I personally have had, I've had the opportunity to cultivate those skills that when you're in the hot seat and you need to give a response and now applied to JUUCE, when you're in that hot seat and you need to give a response, having the connections in your brain that are going to find the answer quickly, and it might not be right every time, but you want it to be, but having a succinct, proper response is really critical to being like a client facing or a partnership development type person. I would say many of my experiences, inside and outside of a classroom, inside and outside of the social scene in Maryland, or some of the leadership positions I took on at that point, and then especially with my role at Tesla, where that's where my first hotspot experiences started, where you would have people coming in every day talking about Model 3 and what the hell is Elon tweeting and why is the stock not going up? That's when the stock was not doing well. And they're like, what is going on here? And you have to respond. You have to know everything about the industry, about the cars, about what is it that people want to hear, but also what are the right things to say in those situations. And that is not learned by studying a textbook. That's like learned from people interactions, from growing skills over time. Some people are better at it than others, but I definitely think it's something that is a growth skill that is learned over time and then refined.
And you got to throw yourself into it to be able to get that learning. And
yeah, it's so uncomfortable.
That's where mental fortitude
sometimes
comes in. That's where this mindset, this elevator mindset, you want to throw yourself into it, knowing that, yeah, you could fail. Okay, great. I can fail. It's a win-win situation. It's more information if I fail. If I win, great. Let's keep moving. Last question, David, before we get into our rapid fire for you. Outside of work, it seems like you spend a lot of time, fueling your passion for JUUCE, and, you have a full-time job. What is something that has been a challenge for you outside of work, and how have you gone about changing that?
Good question. My time management over the last year has really shifted into juice. And because of that, some other things have fallen off. And that is a challenge that maybe a lot of entrepreneurs or, business owners who are like, I have a high responsibility in this position I'm in, they forfeit other things. And, a lot of entrepreneurs will talk about you have to make sacrifices and stuff. And, in order to achieve. And that's really true. And so something I'm working on is, balancing my time so that I can do all the things with the people I have relationships with. Is really important and it's really hard at the same time, especially when you are heads down, like, I'm going to make this work with your company, and seeing past, because the most important thing in your life is always going to be the relationships that you have. And so that's one thing I'm working on. The way I'm improving it is I am like looking at all these different scheduling tools to keep just, me on my 20-hour days scheduled appropriately. So I'm eating, sleeping, meeting up with the people I want to, taking my time to myself, getting outside, right? Those are the things that you forget about when you're like heads down. And honestly, there was a period of juice where it was like nonstop, nonstop, nonstop. And now we're finding ways of working smarter, and not longer. This is probably the better way to put it. And that's helped, And to the point earlier of outsourcing, you have to use your resources, between AI, the amount of information that you can get, and the ability to bring on new team members or outsource, certain activities. You can run a full company in 2023 like this. And we are operating like, say, outside, like past the startup level. We have clients in 6 different states. We have partners doing all kinds of different things, and it's really interesting working with big companies, small, bars. It's really interesting, the discrepancy, and being able to become the right person in each situation to, manage.
I mean, I'm fired up. I'm juiced up, as I should say, to kind of
Juiced
take
up.
some of these lessons learned back to Elevation Nation and some of the stuff that we do. I want to move in, David, make sure we have enough time for our rapid fire section because we got some good questions in here for a fellow Terp. So, my first question, rapid fire, first thing that comes to your mind. College Park has changed a lot since Parker and I were there. We're old, if you couldn't tell. What is your favorite spot in CP? What's the go-to spot? I heard there's a Trader Joe's now, man. Like, I don't know what is going on. You literally had no options when you were there. I had Chipotle and Blaze Pizza 4 times a week because that was it. Where are you eating these days?
Man, it's a funny question to ask me specifically because with my partnership with the University of Maryland, man, I've been there like 40 times in the last like 8 months. Going to the stadiums,
Yeah.
going to campus, meeting with different people and stuff, right? Maryland has been a huge resource for our company, and it's been amazing, reconnecting with so many Terps and connecting with new Terps that are helping to grow our business. And um, my favorite spot there, I don't know. It's hard to say. I go so often that I'm like, all right, it's enough now. But I mean, I when I go to the Xfinity Center on game day and we're hanging out doing our thing in, the boxes and, running juice promotions with, college students. We have some fun giveaways that we do, and it gets so much action. And I just love like interacting with people. So it's when I go there, I know I'm about to be super social and, also talk about my business. And like I said, a lot of people are juiced up about juice, and it's
And you
exciting
get to walk troops,
feed off that
man.
energy.
That's a good spot in College Park. I get it.
What?
I'm a basketball
Xfinity?
guy. Xfinity's
Yeah,
great.
I mean, it's a good spot. Yeah. I like Photom. That's a good one that gets not enough love. Hopefully he's still around.
Kava's my spot. Like
Kava.
every time I'm done with a game or whatever,
Fair enough.
I'm going to Kava. Healthy, it's delicious.
Oh, man. Kava's, I don't know. Kava for me is gone. It used to be up here. You can't even see it. Now it's like trickling down. I don't know why. But maybe because they IPO'd, the quality in my mind has gone down. I don't know. All right. Next question for you.
Kava CEO is also a Terp,
Okay, fine. We like Kava. We do like Kava because he's a Terp. The podcast ain't stopping, which means that we need more elevators to join the nation. But I got another question for you, David. We're talking about JUUCE a lot, like JUUCE, your company, JUUCE. You know how we juice up people's phones. But I'm really curious. What is your favorite JUUCE drink?
I love apple juice.
Solid
I get it
answer.
every time I go on a
Solid
plane.
answer.
That's hilarious. Good question, Parker. That was funny. He's classic. That's a staple. I like it, David.
Staple.
All right.
It's always been
good.
good.
I'm going to give another rapid fire here. Parker and I love to read. I know you got 20-hour days working, but maybe one of those hours or maybe 30 minutes. I don't know if you're a reader or maybe a audiobook listener. Do you have a book recommendation for Elevation Nation? Favorite book?
Man, I tell you what, I read all day, every day, and that's LinkedIn. There is
Ooh,
the
never got that
best-
one.
It's the best possible thing you can read to learn all about an industry. I need to pivot my knowledge base over to a certain industry right now that relates to media, stadiums, event spaces, planning those things. And just by following those people and those companies on LinkedIn, that's all I read. And that's where I bring a lot of my knowledge and share amongst my team. I'm like, hi, we all need to read this as it relates to like what we're currently trying to do partnership wise.
I'm so glad you said LinkedIn, and ironic timing because Parker and I are adding a new stack to Elevation Nation. We're going to be releasing blog posts, little articles on LinkedIn once a week about various topics that we find relevant and interesting. So you're going to have to add those to your reading list on LinkedIn.
I definitely will. I'll be reading them.
I love
Appreciate
it.
And to the point of book, the answer is I don't know. I haven't read a book in a while. I read LinkedIn and all kinds of random stuff that is usually
He's an article
like,
guy.
like
That's okay.
industry, like
You don't have
just
time for
about-
books. Your knowledge comes from elsewhere, is what you're telling me. I love it.
yeah, I would say so. But yeah, that's the best way for me to retain knowledge is like very quickly reading like articles and stuff like that. But a lot of them like high content amount.
I'm sure your filter has become really good because I think there's a lot of bullshit on LinkedIn as well. So you can
Totally.
filter out the BS and read what you think is respected or valued to you. But David,
Totally.
we got the last section. Every person we've had on every person who's joined Elevation Nation has answered this question. And what's really exciting about this question is that we've gotten a different answer from every single person, and that is about the mental motto. I know you're saying that you're going to write it down. You didn't want to forget it. You know, Sam and I have a mental motto. A bunch of other people have a mental motto. It's the phrase, the quote, the slogan that you live your life by. And we are juiced up to hear, David, what your mental motto is.
It's funny that I would even say that I might even forget it because every single day when I wake up, when I walk in and out of my room, I look at it every single day since junior year of college. So what, like 6 years now? It came about when I was in Costa Rica and I bought this insane tapestry and it said something on it that I was like, this is exactly how I want to live the rest of my life. And ever since then, it's been up in my room. I looked at it every single day of my life pretty much. And the motto is learn from the past, live the present, and create the future. And everything about that is what I try to be. You know, I try to always take any experience from my past and put it forward towards what I'm doing now, not make the same mistakes. And if I'm making them, making sure that I know that I'm making them. And trying to be not in the moment per se, but creating a life for yourself now that you're proud of. And then always looking forward to how is all of that going to create a new future, not only for yourself, but for you and the world around you.
It's a beautiful sentiment, a beautiful motto, one we have not heard before. I got to see that tapestry, man. That's impactful stuff. And I think it's something we all can kind of be reminded of. This is why, some people are like, oh, mental mottos, they're so cheesy. Sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need a little reminder every day. And I think what's cool about them is you hear other people's stories behind them and you go, wow, that resonates with me. Or, wow, I see why you said that. And then you have your own that's so core to who you are. And you're going to look back on this in like 10 years when we're at Looney's getting a beer together. We're all hanging out talking about the successful businesses we built. And we're going to be reminded of these little phrases, these little things, and how they pushed us to go a little bit further, gave us the mental fortitude, gave us the juice, and gave us the elevation to create the lives that we wanted. So I'm so glad you shared that with us, David. This was such a pleasure. I'm so excited that we got connected. I know that this is just the start of our friendship, of our mentorship, of our journeys together as Terps. Next time we'll all hang out with Puya and the rest of the co-founders. We wish he was here with us. This has been great, man. I really appreciate you hanging out with us.
Yeah, man, I had a great time talking to you guys. And hey, I want to ask you, Hassan, you know, you guys are running a business too. You know, how you define business is different for everyone. You know, if we defined it off how much money we were making at the current moment, then I don't know if you define it as a business. But the same thing goes for, when you're building something, a lot of the same things apply. So I want to ask you guys a question. It's what are you guys wanting to build with what you guys are doing? And I'm hoping maybe I could give you maybe a personal note on what it's like to build, because I've recently been talking to a lot of founders and giving some of the strategies that we've been using, and some of them have implemented and be like, this changed like our whole business. And so I have one in particular that I want to share, but I'm just curious to hear from your guys' side.
I love it.
You're building something, right? And that requires getting people interested and, basically buying in.
Yeah.
So what's
awesome question.
What's your buy-in strategy for building this?
So I want to answer your first question first, which was like, what are you building here? And I don't know if my answer is going to be the same as Parker's, but I'm building my dream life. Elevation Nation is a tool for me to get my dream life. And I spend probably time every 6 months to a year mapping out what my dream life scenario is. And in it includes growing and learning every single day, meeting people that are smarter and cooler than me, being able to mentor other people and be mentored, and speaking around the world to share my message. Elevation Nation is a tool that is helping me to get there. From a financial standpoint, from an exposure standpoint, from a platform standpoint, that is my dream. So whether that is Elevation Nation or if Parker and I pivot to a new concept or idea, my true answer is I'm trying to build my dream life, which is a little bit different than, someone who has a product or a specific service that they're trying to sell. Obviously, we have stacks and mediums and revenue streams that we are growing from this, and Parker can talk about those. But my honest, truthful answer is I'm trying to build my dream life.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Sam said. I guess from more of a Elevation Nation standpoint, what we're doing is I think we believe that everyone has a story to share, and a lot of these young people don't have a way to share it and share the knowledge to help others. And on top of that, I believe with Elevation Nation, what we're doing is I feel like Sam and I are like little cheerleaders on the sideline, little free, you don't pay us cheerleaders to hype up and watch and see all these young people absolutely crush it. And what we're trying to build is, I wouldn't call it a community, but a network of amazing people who are just continuing to make the world a better place. And Sam and I have doubled down on our belief that everyone we're bringing on, whether it's now, 5 years, 10 years, 25, 50 years, are going to be the ones leading the charge and making the world a better place. And I believe Elevation Nation is going to be that uniting factor among all those people that, they start on the podcast, but then hopefully after that, there's more to come. So it's been fun, the podcast. We've been doing it for a while now, dude. And, we have another stack with a newsletter. We have YouTube. We do this. We do that. It's a lot of content, but at the same time, our favorite part is meeting people and bringing people together and making connections. And, to your point about making money, Sam and I are not doing this to make money. We're doing this to meet people, make the world a better place, and hopefully make money along the way.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you guys what stood out about you guys to me right away. And that's, I'm a partnership based guy, right? And when we started talking about, ourselves and how we're going to move forward and, do a podcast together, you're building a community. And something that I'm just going to share, like when you are starting a company, when you're doing anything, when you have your right target audience, right? And you're trying to sell them something, you want them to listen to something, you want them to buy in, you need to present an ROI, right? And for me, coming on here, my ROI is to become part of Elevation Nation. I am very excited to meet other elevators and to meet you guys and to be part of the community, right? That's my ROI. And so framing for the people that either you want to watch or that you want to come on the show, that ROI, and it's going to be unique to what you guys are trying to build. That is a key to growth, and that's what we learned a little bit ago. And now the framing of our ROI to all our partners is very detailed to a certain audience, and it's changed everything in terms of growth, in terms of who you want to buy in. Right? I think it applies to any builder of anything,
Love it.
podcast, the business, to anything.
Time is money, man. That's what it is. What's our ROI is spend time with you. It's the same thing. We want to meet amazing people who are making a difference and sharing an amazing message and story, because everyone has a story to share.
It is interesting, though, just a quick note, there's kind of two different target markets, too, with Elevation Nation and two different ROIs, right? It's we want to get cool people like you, David, on the podcast to welcome you into Elevation Nation, introduce you to other elevators, come to our events, buy our apparel, promote us on speaking gigs, introduce us to people at Merit, right? Like, of course, it's all about the network game, but there's now like all these listeners, people we've spoken to at high schools and colleges. Like, people are following now, like we're getting bigger. People are following us from around the world, learning, loving the topics that we're bringing up. And so there's an ROI for them too, of hearing genuine conversations of young people who are chasing their dreams, struggling, going through hard times, persevering.
Absolutely.
And so it's a little bit of both, where like, I want you to tell me your successes, but I equally want you to share your failures with people, because being vulnerable is what has caused us, I think, the most genuine connections, and like real ROI is seen from that from people.
Yeah. If you can explain to your target audience what they're getting out of it, you're going to grow. That's how I see it. And it's powerful stuff, because when leveraged correctly, you can go big once you figure those things out.
Love it. Let me end the podcast and then we can chat. Elevation Nation, much love. Until next week. Peace. Because I know we went on a little tangent there, and we'll add that last section.